Yeah, good evening. Welcome to our Friday night Bible study, this being the first one in April, which this year is also Good Friday. If you're into that kind of thing, paying attention to it. And this is also the 3rd of April of 2026. So it was a date to remember in our family as well as some other things. I think my wife is there and she has the phone put away where it won't be making noise, so I can set the phone down over there in front of the mic so she can chime in if she wants to be heard. And with that, I think we're pretty well ready to go this evening.
I want to chime in.
All right, chime in.
I just saw on Facebook, I just saw a little meme that's put out by a medical society or something. I don't remember. But they just put out a statement. It says that having a brain can cause brain cancer.
Having a brain says that didn't tell us anything.
Medical humor, that's the name of it. Medical humor.
Okay. Well, yeah. You can't have a life without risk.
Having a brain can cause brain humor. Okay.
That,
And another that they had was Plan A, be a doctor. Plan B, marry a doctor. Plan C, have a baby and bully him into becoming a doctor.
I was going to say that one statement was kind of like the statistic. 100% of people who are born eventually die. So I guess it's risky to be born even.
Oh, that's true.
And unfortunately, you didn't get to choose. And that may be the thing that requires the most deep thought. You didn't get to choose whether you were going to be here or not.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
But your parents did.
I didn't hear what you just said.
You need to pay them for raising you. That's not right.
Yeah, unfortunately, I didn't hear what you said, so I was asking you to repeat it, and you repeated it while I was asking you to, so we didn't hear it.
There are people out there who tell their kids, you owe me for raising you, for all the money I spent on you raising you. But that's not right. You
No.
didn't ask to be born. They're the ones that made that choice.
I have a rather impolite response to that. I'll pay for my upbringing if I get to have the sex.
I'm sorry, I don't want to have sex with my mother.
Well, I'm just
Or my
saying.
dad.
I'm just saying, I mean, that's the price. Raising a child and spending all that money is the price of, what you do. So you can't lay that on somebody else. You're the one who had the intercourse. You need to pony up. It's not on anybody else.
Right.
Especially the child that didn't have a choice in whether or not they would be born. So
Right.
first
Anyway,
week.
that was the eruption.
Okay.
That was your comic relief for the day.
First week in April meant the first week to mow the grass, or the weeds. I went to the local general store, hoping to find a weed and feed treatment that I could put on my lawn. I did find some weed and feed, but it said right on it, not for lawns. It's garden only because it's grass killer. So it'll fertilize the land and it'll kill the weeds, but on your lawn it'll also kill the grass, which is not what you want. And I couldn't find a lawn-based weed and feed. That used to be available every year. So I don't know what happened then. Anyway, I did get out and I pulled out the weed whip first, and it chewed through what was left on the spool in very short order. So I came in and reloaded the spool and took it out and got about half of the house done. It ran out again, and I was sick and tired of it. I didn't trim the whole all the way around the house. Some of it didn't get trimmed. So I looked at it, and I've got a worn out part inside. That's why it's chewing through so much of the string so fast. So I have some stuff on order that will replace those worn out parts. Probably get here sometime next week, and I won't try to mow again until 2 weeks from yesterday. So, but what are you saying?
Don't tell that to the HOA.
So anyway, after that, I gassed up the mower. Well, I gas up the mower first so that anything I spill can have time to evaporate before I try to start it. So I had it already gassed up, but I started it up. It started right away, and I started mowing. I noticed it wasn't running really smoothly. It kept missing. On a lawnmower, you've only got a one-cylinder engine, so if it misses very often, it kind of messes with its operation. And I'm guessing it was missing once every 5 to 10 strokes, it would miss again. And so that was kind of a problem. Well, I went ahead and used it, and it started to sprinkle. And I'm like, oh my, I'm not going to get this done. But it only ever sprinkled. It never actually rained. So even though the grass was now a touch wet, I went ahead and finished because I'd started. Except that I got the last section of lawn, the lawnmower ran out of gas. So I'm like, why is this? Because normally...
Did you do this on Monday, perhaps?
No, this was yesterday. When I was out, because I...
Monday?
Huh?
Yesterday was Monday.
No, yesterday was Thursday.
By my calendar, it was Monday.
Well, anyway, I was wondering why it had burned up, because normally I can do the whole lawn and a little extra and still have fuel left over in the tank. Well, it had drained the tank dry and run out and quit running. So I refilled it, and I got to think of what might cause that. So I checked the air filter, and the air filter was all full of pollen and dust and so forth. So I got all that knocked out and loose and put everything back in, closed the air filter cover, fired it up, and it ran better. So apparently it was getting too much fuel, which meant it started easier, but it also didn't run real well. Back in the old days, mowers had manual chokes, and you could choke it to start it, and then once it got running, you could release the choke and go. Most modern mowers don't have that option, and they can be a real bear to get started. In fact, I had a mower where I was having to they had a little primer pump to kind of get the thing started in lieu of the choke. And I had a mower where I was going to pump that thing like 100 times in order to get it to start. And then it quit running good, so I went out and bought another mower. But anyway, I think next time I'm going to go, they have battery powered mowers now, and you can get, like 2 or 3 batteries and have 1 or 2 on a charger, and so that way you don't have to mess with the gas. You don't have that flammable liquid sitting in the garage and all that stuff. I don't know, that might be the way to go. We'll see. And you can get them where your lawnmower matches your string trimmer, So you can use the same battery for the mower and for the string trimmer and sometimes even other lawn tools like electric hedge clippers and so forth. So we'll probably look into that at some point. Almost every day this week, the live weather streaming channels have been up, streaming severe weather and tornado coverage. Generally, the area covered has gone from Texas through Oklahoma and then up into parts of Kansas and Iowa and Illinois and Indiana and Ohio and sometimes even into New York State or up into Wisconsin and Michigan some. In fact, I think it was yesterday, they were having tornadoes in southern Wisconsin and ice storms in northern Wisconsin. So the weather's been a handful. Anyway, we started the book of Proverbs. We read 3 chapters of it last week. So we're ready to continue in that book. And I think we're ready to begin, so let's bow our heads. Our Father in heaven, we thank you for all your blessings. We thank you for the written word and for the opportunity we have to open it and seek knowledge about you. We understand that the writers were human and they made mistakes. So if we're to get a right perception from the scriptures, we need the aid and assistance of the Holy Spirit. And that can only be achieved on a one-to-one basis. We can't ask you to send the Holy Spirit to everybody. We can simply ask you to send the Holy Spirit to us and then hope that every person who listens will also seek the Spirit so that they will hear something helpful and useful for them. Grant us that grace, then, we ask, in Jesus' name. Amen. So, we have Proverbs chapter 4 up here. This is titled A Father's Wise Advice in this version. And it starts out, my children, which would be, if you look at the footnote there after children, that A, it's telling us that in the Hebrew, it's my sons. Recall that Proverbs was written in a very male-dominated culture, and, sons were what mattered. A father taught his sons. The daughters, you had to have daughters, so you raised them, but you didn't put your effort into them. You put your effort into your sons. So for modern audiences, they translate that children rather than sons. Listen when your father corrects you, assuming he's actually correcting you and not leading you astray. Pay attention and learn good judgment, for I'm giving you good guidance. Don't turn away from my instructions, for I too was once my father's son, tenderly loved as my mother's only child. That's interesting. Apparently, we know that Solomon's mother was Bathsheba, with whom Solomon's father David committed adultery, and the child born of that illicit engagement eventually died in infancy. And so then the next son, for whatever reason, David decided would succeed him as king, which made him quite a bit younger, most likely, than the other sons who had claim to the throne. And we know that because David ruled for 7 years in Hebron, and then the rest of his reign in Jerusalem. And there were at least 6 sons born to David in Hebron. And those sons are named When we went through the book of Kings, or Samuel rather, which is just the first two books of Kings. When we read through those books, we read the names of those sons, and we talked about each one and what we knew about them. Solomon was 30 when he became king, which means he would have been born 10 years into his father's reign when David was now in Jerusalem. So that would have made him anywhere from 3 to 9 years younger than his other brothers. Anyway, when he talks about being his mother's only child, that suggests that Bathsheba had Solomon after the child that died and never had another child after him. Reading on.
That would make sense.
What are you saying?
That would make sense.
In what way?
She lost her child, so David was with her enough to give her another child. And after that, how many wives did he have to go through to keep them all happy? She probably didn't have a chance to get pregnant again.
Who knows? He wasn't like Solomon, which had nearly 1,000, but we know he had quite a few. Proverbs 4 verse 4, my father taught me, take my words to heart, follow my commands and you will live. Get wisdom, develop good judgment. Don't forget my words or turn away from them. Don't turn your back on wisdom, for she will protect you. Love her, and she will guard you. Getting wisdom is the wisest thing you can do. And whatever else you do, develop good judgment. And I think I want to read that line out of the King James, because I'm thinking that says something, yes. Wisdom is the principal thing, therefore get wisdom, and with all thy getting, get understanding. And based on that, I had a friend, after I finished high school, there was a friend who would always say, and with all thy getting, get with it. So I kind of thought when I read that, I kind of thought that might be where the text came from, that he did that with. Whatever else you do, develop good judgment. If you prize wisdom, she will make you great. Embrace her and she will honor you. She will place a lovely wreath on your head. She will present you with a beautiful crown. And verses 4 through 9 are styled as a quotation from Solomon's father, or David. Now we go back to Solomon's words. My child, or my son, listen to me and do as I say, and you will have a long, good life. I will teach you wisdom's ways and lead you in straight paths. When you walk, you won't be held back. When you run, you won't stumble. Take hold of my instructions. Don't let them go. Guard them, for they are the key to life. Don't do as the wicked do, and don't follow the path of evildoers. Don't even think about it. Don't go that way. Turn away and keep moving. For evil people can't sleep until they've done their evil deed for the day. They can't rest until they've caused someone to stumble. They eat the food of wickedness and drink the wine of violence. The way of the righteous is like the first gleam of dawn, which shines ever brighter until the full light of day. But the way of the wicked is like total darkness. They have no idea what they're stumbling over. We've talked in the past about the difference between light and darkness. Darkness, which is likened in the Bible to a lack of truth, a separation from reality, is like being in darkness. You can't see any longer because you've reinterpreted everything to fit the ideas you want to impose on the world. And so you can't see clearly. You don't know what's tripping you up because you can't see, it's dark, so on and so forth. My child, pay attention to what I say. Listen carefully to my words. Don't lose sight of them. Let them penetrate deep into your heart. For they bring life to those who find them and healing to their whole body. Guard your heart or your character above all else, for it determines the course of your life. That's why we talk a lot in this group about character, because character determines how you will react to situations. If you get the character right, your responses will naturally be appropriate. Get the character wrong, and you're busy reading the rules and consulting, what should I do here, because you don't have the character that can guide you the way you need to. Character determines the course of your life. Avoid all perverse talk. Stay away from corrupt speech. Look straight ahead and fix your eyes on what lies before you. Mark out a straight path for your feet. Stay on the safe path. Don't get sidetracked. Keep your feet from following evil.
Anna,
Yes.
I need you for 2 seconds. Seriously. Pull that off, please. I'll probably yell. Ow! Ooh, thank you. Cut off my circulation and oh, that hurt. Sorry to interrupt you.
Now, I'm going to fall back on what little bit of experience I have as a farmer. Never really was a farmer, but I did get farm-based training. I've worked on farms some, and one of the things that I learned even when I was a little kid, if you want to make a straight row down the field, say you're plowing or something, you start out, you identify a point on the horizon or at the other end of the field, say a bush or a rock or something. You look at that and you keep your tractor aimed right at that point. And as long as you do that, then you will make a straight furrow or whatever you happen to be running. The lines will go straight. And then you line up. What'd you say?
I thought you were supposed to follow the mule scale or backside.
Well, if you're using a mule, but even then, if you follow the mule, mules are probably kind of like cows. You won't end up with a straight line. So that's what I thought of when I see this verse 25. Look straight ahead, fix your eyes on what lies before you. Set that point, make that goal, and then keep that before you all the time. And any corrections you need to make toward that one point. Mark out a straight path for your feet and stay on the safe path.
Put your eye on the prize.
Well, we do use that phrase, and yes, that's part of it. As long as you understand properly what the prize is.
Yeah.
Proverbs chapter 5. There are two chapters like this one. They are a bit sexist because, let's face it, this was a sexist culture. It was male dominated. But we could potentially apply some of the things here to men who are out looking to have a good time without regard for the long-term well-being of the people involved in helping them have a good time. Let's put it that way. My son, pay attention to my wisdom. And I guess they decided, given the nature of the content, to leave it son instead of child here. Listen carefully to my wise counsel. Then you will show discernment, and your lips will express what you've learned. For the lips of an immoral woman are as sweet as honey. And just to see, yes. In the King James, they use the term strange there. And I haven't had that my NIV for a bit. So it's turned to an entirely different section. Wow. The NIV gets highly interpretive there and just says an adulteress. And if you use that term there, then you could use the term adulterer just as well, right? For the lips of an immoral woman are as sweet as honey, and her mouth is smoother than oil. But in the end, she is as bitter as poison, as dangerous as a double-edged sword. Her feet go down to death. Her steps lead straight to the grave. Footnote A, I'll bet you that'll say Sheol. Straight to hell. I wonder if the King James translated it hell there. No, it translated it death. Oh, no, wait a minute. Verse 5 in the King James. Her feet go down to death. Her steps take hold on hell. So it did do that. For she cares nothing about the path to life. She staggers down a crooked trail and doesn't realize it, making us think she walks in darkness for trying to make reality conform to her desires. So now, my sons, listen to me. Never stray from what I am about to say. Stay away from her. Don't go near the door of her house. If you do, you will lose your honor and will lose to merciless people all you have achieved. Strangers will consume your wealth, and someone else will enjoy the fruit of your labor. In the end, you will groan in anguish when disease consumes your body. Sounds like maybe they had venereal diseases in Solomon's day. You will say, how I hated discipline. If only I had not ignored all the warnings. Oh, why didn't I listen to my teachers? Why didn't I pay attention to my instructors? I have come to the brink of utter ruin, and now I must face public disgrace. When I upload these to YouTube, I have to click a box to say whether or not these are made for children. I always say they're not. And you're about to come across a reason why I check these are not for children. Verse 15. Drink water from your own well. Share your love only with your wife. Or flowing water from your own well. Drink water from your own cistern. Okay. Why spill the water of your springs in the streets, having sex with just anyone? Or footnote still, your streams in the city squares. This version is being rather interpretive about that. You should reserve it for yourselves, never share it with strangers. Let your wife be a fountain of blessing for her. Rejoice in the wife of your youth. She is a loving deer, a graceful doe. Let her breasts satisfy you always. May you always be captivated by her love. Why be captivated, my son, by an immoral woman, or fondle the breasts of a promiscuous woman? For the Lord sees clearly what a man does, examining every path he takes. An evil man is held captive by his own sins. They are ropes that catch and hold him. He will die for lack of self-control. He will be lost because of his great foolishness. And again, I'm sure you could read that in such a way that it would be a warning to daughters about men who aren't faithful. And perhaps the reason we don't see that so much is that our culture and our society has not done a very good job of teaching women, the young ladies in our culture, what to look for in a man to know whether or not he will be faithful to them. And unfortunately, all too often, young women go looking for things in the men they are attracted to that are actually indicators that he won't be faithful to them. And they open themselves up for heartbreak later in life. Proverbs chapter 6. Lessons for daily life. My child, if you have put up security for a friend's debt, or agreed to guarantee the debt of a stranger, if you have trapped yourself by your agreement and are caught by what you said, follow my advice and save yourself, for you have placed yourself at your friend's mercy. Now, swallow your pride. Go and beg to have your name erased. Don't put it off. Do it now. Save yourself like a gazelle escaping from a hunter, like a bird fleeing from a net. Take a lesson from the ants, you lazy bones. Learn from their ways and become wise. Though they have no prince or governor or ruler to make them work, they labor hard all summer, gathering food for the winter. Now that I find fascinating, and I don't know if Solomon intended this when he wrote that, but take a lesson from the ants. They don't have a prince or a governor or ruler. All the ants work together toward the good of the entire group, nest, whatever you want to call it. So the ants they are social insects, and they do work together. And they don't have to have a boss. And if humans had the right character, we wouldn't need a boss, a ruler, or a prince. We would go out and do what was necessary for society to work well without being prompted or directed or told what to do. But you, lazy bones, how long will you sleep? When will you wake up? a little extra sleep, a little more slumber, a little folding of the hands to rest. Then poverty will pounce on you like a bandit. Scarcity will attack you like an armed robber. What are worthless and wicked people like? They are constant liars. Well, of course they are. They live separated from reality. So they have to say things to make what they encounter conform to their worldview. They are constant liars, signaling their deceit with the wink of the eye, a nudge of the foot, or the wiggle of fingers. Their perverted hearts plot evil, and they constantly stir up trouble. But they will be destroyed suddenly, broken in an instant beyond all hope of healing. We have talked in the past about the idea of salvation being like healing. How did Jesus illustrate salvation to the multitudes when he was on earth? He healed people of their diseases, and there are multiple reasons why that was important. But he healed people, and leading us to understand that salvation is, in a different sense, healing of the soul, healing of the character so that it gets restored to what it should have been, what we were made to be. If you don't get that healing, you'll be destroyed.
When he healed, he would often place his hand upon the person. That one-to-one physical contact sends a message. It can be a different message, but when you're reaching out to heal, you're giving a form of love, which makes me think of Princess Diana. When the AIDS became so feared, she would go out and she would touch people who had AIDS. And they feared for her, but they also loved her because she loved them enough to touch them.
Mm-hmm.
The simple act of a touch says a whole lot to the person who's being touched.
Yes. Now, we just read verse 15. Verse 16 starts a type of Hebrew poetic structure that we will encounter again later in this book, and that gets used occasionally elsewhere. Let me read verse 16 and then I'll explain the pattern. There are 6 things the Lord hates. No, 7 things he detests. There's the pattern. You give a number.
How many there are.
What?
They count how many they list.
Yeah. They'll give a number, and then they'll repeat the number, only to be that number plus 1. We'll see this in other places. Here it starts with 6 and then goes on to 7. So here they are. Haughty eyes, a lying tongue, hands that kill the innocent, a heart that plots evil, feet that race to do wrong, a false witness who pours out lies, a person who sows discord in a family. There's your 7. Now you notice it's not people. It is approaches to life that God hates. He hates these things because they destroy people. He created people. He wants them to do well. When they engage in things that destroy them, he hates that thing that destroys them. Verse 20. My son, obey your father's commands and don't neglect your mother's instruction. Keep their words always in your heart. Tie them around your neck. When you walk, their counsel will lead you. When you sleep, they will protect you. When you wake up, they will advise you. For their command is a lamp, and their instruction a light. Their corrective discipline is the way to life. It will keep you from the immoral woman, from the smooth tongue of a promiscuous woman. Don't lust for her beauty. Don't let her coy glances seduce you. For a prostitute will bring you to poverty, but sleeping with another man's wife will cost you your life. Poverty there. A loaf of bread. That's what it says. Interesting. Can a man scoop a flame into his lap and not have his clothes catch fire? Can he walk on hot coals and not blister his feet? So it is with a man who sleeps with another man's wife. He who embraces her will not go unpunished. Excuses might be found for a thief who steals because he is starving. But if he is caught, he must pay back 7 times what he stole. Now, generally in the United States, we go with 3 treble damages. For example, in certain situations, if you take down somebody else's tree without permission, particularly if it's a certain species of tree, the court can impose treble, that's 3 times, damages on you for that tree or those trees if you go in and log the wrong property. But if he is caught, he must pay back 7 times what he stole, even if he has to sell everything in his house. But the man who commits adultery is an utter fool, for he destroys himself. He will be wounded and disgraced. His shame will never be erased. For the woman's jealous husband will be furious, and he will show no mercy when he takes revenge. He will accept no compensation, nor be satisfied with a payoff of any size. And this sounds to me like Solomon expressing an already established cultural phenomenon of what to do if you catch somebody messing with your wife. Didn't we have a case in our state where a man was acquitted of murder because the man he shot was in bed with his daughter? Sounds like maybe my wife went to sleep. Proverbs 7, another warning about immoral women. And again, as we read through this, think this can apply to women as well as to men, and can be talking about unfaithful men as well as a promiscuous woman. Both genders can be promiscuous and seductive and all these other things. Follow my advice, my son. Always treasure my commands. Obey my commands and live. Guard my instructions as you guard your own eyes. Footnote A on the eyes there. As the pupil of your eye. Okay. Tie them on your fingers as a reminder. Write them deep within your heart. Love wisdom like a sister. Make insight a beloved member of your family. Let them protect you from an affair with an immoral woman, from listening to the flattery of a promiscuous woman. And now Solomon imagines himself telling a story. Here's the story. While I was at the window of my house looking through the curtain, I saw some naive young men, and one in particular who lacked common sense. He was crossing the street near the house of an immoral woman, strolling down the path by her house. It was at twilight, in the evening, as deep darkness fell. The woman approached him, seductively dressed and sly of heart. She was the brash, rebellious type, never content to stay at home. She is often in the streets and markets, soliciting at every corner. She threw her arms around him and kissed him, and with a brazen look she said, "I've just made my peace offerings and fulfilled my vows. You're the one I was looking for. I came out to find you. Here you are." By the way, that is a known strategy of people who want to overpower and control someone. Make them feel good about themselves. Make them feel unique and special. You will, in so doing, cause them to take down their natural defenses and accept what you say without the caution that they would normally apply to somebody else's words. And that's what this woman has done. "I came out to find you, and here you are. My bed is spread with beautiful blankets and colored sheets of Egyptian linen. I perfumed my bed with myrrh, aloes, and cinnamon. Come, let's drink our fill of love until morning. Let's enjoy each other's caresses. For my husband is not home. He's away on a long trip. He has taken a wallet full of money with him and won't return until later this month." Footnote B, until the moon is full. All right, well, yeah. So she seduced him with her pretty speech and enticed him with her flattery. He followed her at once, like an ox going to the slaughter. He was like a stag caught in a trap. As in the Greek and Syriac versions, the Hebrew reads slaughter as shackles are for the discipline of a fool. All right? Awaiting the arrow that would pierce its heart. He was like a bird flying into a snare, little knowing it would cost him his life. So listen to me, my sons, and pay attention to my words. Don't let your heart stray toward her. Don't wander down her wayward path. For she has been the ruin of many. Many men have been her victims. Her house is the road to hell, Sheol. Her bedroom is the den of death. And again, that's chapter 7. Let me confirm that King James renders that hell, but I'm pretty certain that it does. Yes, her house is the way to hell, going down to the chambers of death. Chapter 8. 8 and 9 will both personify wisdom as female, and when we get to chapter 9, I heard an interesting interpretation of that. I don't remember the exact interpretation, but I'm going to discuss it when we get there. But for now, let's just read chapter 8 here. Listen as wisdom calls out. Hear as understanding raises her voice. On the hilltop along the road, she takes her stand at the crossroads, in other words, at decision-making points, because that's where we need wisdom. By the gates, at the entrance to the town, On the road leading in, she cries aloud, I call to you, to all of you. I raise my voice to all people. You simple people, use good judgment. You foolish people, show some understanding. Listen to me, for I have important things to tell you. Everything I say is right, for I speak the truth and detest every kind of deception. In other words, part of wisdom is being firmly tied to reality. My advice is wholesome. There is nothing devious or crooked in it. My words are plain to anyone with understanding, clear to those with knowledge. Choose my instruction rather than silver, and knowledge rather than pure gold. It's interesting that Solomon would use this, because in his vision at the high place, he made a very similar choice. He was offered this, and this, or wisdom, and he chose wisdom rather than those other things, which included great wealth. So, choose these things rather than silver or pure gold. For wisdom is far more valuable than rubies. Nothing you desire can compare with it. I, wisdom, live together with good judgment. I know where to discover knowledge and discernment. All who respect the Lord will hate evil. Therefore I hate pride and arrogance, corruption and perverse speech. Common sense and success belong to me. Insight and strength are mine. Because of me, kings reign, and rulers make just decrees. Rulers lead with my help, and nobles make righteous judgments. Footnote A. Some Hebrew manuscripts and the Greek version read, and nobles are judges over the earth. Okay. We could hope that were true in our day, but I don't think it is. But the point is, it's only when rulers and judges may engage wisdom that they can make righteous judgments and just decrees. And let's talk about verse 14 uses the word common sense in this version. Unfortunately, in our day and age, people use common sense to indicate this is what we think ought to be true. So even though reality has indicated otherwise, it just makes sense to us that this should be true. And so they go about talking like as if intellectuals and the educational institutions of our country have abandoned common sense. But I would say that's mostly because what they want the world to be and the way they want it to work is contrary to reality. So they call it common sense, and they say, well, this makes sense to us, so therefore it must make sense to everybody. It must be good for everybody. And yeah, we know that these intellectuals over there, they study it, they check it out, they look at the results, and they tell us it doesn't work the way we think it should. But they're nuts. They've lost track of common sense. And that's just the way humans do. Once they get stuck on a certain idea, reality itself cannot convince them otherwise. Understanding and wisdom, discernment, knowledge, good judgment, all these things are founded in reality, and they will lead us into conformity to reality rather than outside of it. And that is how you get common sense. Common sense and success belong to me, wisdom says. Insight and strength are mine. So common sense isn't a starting point. It's something that you reach through wisdom. And wisdom is the application of your mental faculties given to you by your Creator. Application of those mental faculties to understand reality and to examine other people's outcomes and determine what you should do to achieve the outcome you desire. Reading on, verse 17. I love all who love me. Those who search will surely find me. I have riches and honor, as well as enduring wealth and justice. And let me take a moment here to go to a New Testament text, because it does mention wisdom, and I want to read it and I want to share with you something that I shared when we read that, when we went through the New Testament, but also just to remind us of this principle. You'll find what I want in James chapter 1. James chapter 1 verse 4. Perseverance must finish its work so that you may be mature and complete or perfect, not lacking anything. If any of you lacks wisdom, he should ask God, who gives generously to all without finding fault, and it will be given to him. But when he asks, he must believe and not doubt, because he who doubts is like a wave of the sea, blown and tossed by the wind. That man should not think he will receive anything from the Lord. He is a double-minded man, unstable in all he does. Now, one of the conclusions we draw from that is that when you desire wisdom, what does James say to do? Go to God. Ask him. Okay, that just came up on my phone. I mentioned that earlier. If you happen to read that, although it's probably in such small type you can't read it on the stream. Anyway, we are to go to God when we desire wisdom. And James makes a point about the Creator's faithfulness. He'll give it to you if you ask him. So then, if you have asked God for wisdom, then believe that he has given it to you and use that wisdom in the situation that faces you. A decision you need to make, whatever. So that is, Solomon will make passing reference to the Creator here in a few places. But when he speaks of wisdom, really, he's speaking of the Creator, because the Creator is the source of wisdom. And if you search, you will surely find wisdom, as long as you search with the Creator, because he wants to give it to you. Those who search will surely find me. I have riches and honor, as well as enduring wealth and justice. My gifts are better than gold, even the purest gold. My wage is better than sterling silver. I walk in righteousness, in paths of justice. There's another case where Hebrew poetic parallelism links righteousness and justice together. A justice that is not righteous ultimately isn't justice. It's just vengeance. Those who love me inherit wealth. I will fill their treasuries. Now, that may not be literal earthly wealth, because that doesn't always follow being attached to reality, but in some cases it might be. But it will certainly be spiritual wealth and fulfillment in your lifestyle. The Lord, or the Creator, formed me from the beginning, before He created anything else. I was appointed in ages past, at the very first, before the earth began. I was born before the oceans were created, before the springs bubbled forth their waters. Before the mountains were formed, before the hills, I was born. Before He had made the earth and fields and the first handfuls of soil. I was there when He established the heavens, when He drew the horizon on the oceans. I was there when He set the clouds above, when He established springs deep in the earth. I was there when He set the limits of the seas, so they would not spread beyond their boundaries. And when He marked off the earth's foundations, I was the architect at His side. I was His constant delight, rejoicing always in His presence. And how happy I was with the world He created. How I rejoiced with the human family. Now, maybe you had the same thoughts I did as you read through this passage, verses 22 to 31. It might have reminded you of what the Creator said to Job and to his friends. It's written in the book of Job as a speech to Job. And let's see. Job 38, starting at verse 4, and I'm going to read out of the NIV here. Where were you when I laid the earth's foundation? Well, wisdom was right there, wasn't she? Tell me if you understand. Who marked off its dimensions? Surely you know. Who stretched out a measuring line across it? On what were its footings set? Or who laid its foundations? Or cornerstone, rather. While the morning stars sang together and the angels shouted for joy. Who shut up the sea behind doors when it burst forth from the womb? When I made the clouds its garment and wrapped it in thick darkness. When I fixed limits for it and set its doors and bars in place. When I said, this far you may come and no further. Here is where your proud waves halt. So there's a distinct parallel between that passage with which God challenged Job and this passage, which depicts wisdom as being there with the Creator as He established these things. And notice that it's even in verse 29 here. I was there when He set the limits of the seas so they would not spread beyond their boundaries. Recall the ancient Middle East mythology regarding the sea. Reference to the sea was a reference to chaos, to the unknown. And here the Creator sets limits for those chaotic powers so that they would not spread beyond their boundaries. When we read the account in Genesis 2, when we read the account in Job 1 and 2. We see God setting limits on those forces of darkness and evil. And the Creator did that for our benefit. Our problem is we like to cross over the boundary, we're curious, and we get ourselves in trouble. Verse 32, and so, my children, or my sons, listen to me, for all who follow my ways are joyful. Listen to my instruction and be wise. Don't ignore it. Joyful are those who listen to me, watching for me daily at my gates, waiting for me outside my home. For whoever finds me finds life and receives favor from the Creator. But those who miss me injure themselves. All who hate me love death. Certainly, the carefully thought through lifestyle is far more beneficial than just going at life and let somebody else make all the choices. Too many people do that, and I think one of the main reasons for that is that our society, our culture, has commanded parents to control their children, to feed them a particular set of values and rules and do's and don'ts. And so parents are busy teaching the rules and the do's and the don'ts, and they aren't teaching the how to examine a situation and make up your own mind. We have a determined outcome, so we teach them a determined outcome, and they never learn how to determine an outcome for themselves. So when they grow up and they get out there as adults, they don't know how to adult, to use a modern turn of phrase, because they've never been given experience with it. You learn by doing, and you get thrown into the deep end once you turn 18, or whatever age it is in your culture. You could be out there and, it's like the guy who mustered out of the military. He ended up re-enlisting. Why? Well, he told them, nobody's in charge out there. Well, there are people in charge out there, unfortunately, but the way it's supposed to be is you don't need people in charge. You're in charge of yourself. You're supposed to control yourself. That's what self-control means. And it's easy if you get the right character. But too many people get raised with the rules and the regulations, and they aren't taught how to think things through and make intelligent, wise decisions. So they lack it. They want somebody to tell them where to go and what to do and when and all that. Chapter 9. Wisdom has built her house. She has carved its 7 columns. She has prepared a great banquet, mixed the wines, and set the table. I got 2 pages in one here, and I can't get them to separate. And what I want is between those 2 pages. She has hewn out its 7 pillars, is what the NIV says. And the King James Version says, she hath hewn out her 7 pillars. Pillars in the King James, pillars in the NIV, columns here. She has sent her servants to invite everyone to come. She calls out from the heights overlooking the city. Come in with me, she urges the simple. To those who lack judgment, she says, come, eat my food, and drink the wine I have mixed. Now, maybe this invitation passage here made you think about a story, a parable that Jesus told. A wise man, a prominent man, was going to throw a banquet for his son who was getting married. And so he invited all these honored guests to come to the banquet. So here we have a banquet, mixed wines and food. And now the invitation goes out. To those who lack good judgment, come eat my food and drink the wine I have mixed. Leave your simple ways behind and begin to live. Learn to use good judgment. Anyone who rebukes a mocker will get an insult in return. Anyone who corrects the wicked will get hurt. So don't bother correcting mockers. They will only hate you. But correct the wise, and they will love you. Instruct the wise, and they will be even wiser. Teach the righteous, and they will learn even more. That verse 8 might be very good advice. Well, 7 and 8 both, actually. Very good advice, because there are a lot of people out there who imagine themselves as being more intelligent and more important than they really are, and they just can't wait to pass on their wisdom to other people. And they'll pass it on to people who aren't ready for any wisdom or instruction, and they'll get hurt and get insulted in exchange for it. If somebody is not prepared to listen, don't waste your breath talking. Are you awake?
About that. Something about a fool who answers before hearing what is said.
Yeah. I asked you a question earlier and I didn't get an answer.
I've been asleep.
That's what I thought. I was saying earlier we read something, and I said, didn't we have a case in our state where a man was acquitted of murder charge because the man he murdered was in bed with his daughter at the time he got killed?
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway. We read the bit about the wayward woman earlier in Proverbs, and about how her path leads down to death. And in fact, there was a place where it specifically states that you can't pay off her husband. He's coming after you. I said, this sounds like a very, that cultural expectation was already very well established even in Solomon's day.
Well, that's what was said to us today. Someone asked how long we've been married, and what did she say?
She said it was unusual.
Yeah.
So don't bother correcting mockers. They will only hate you. And you may need some wisdom from your Creator in order to distinguish between people who are prepared to listen and people who aren't, so that you can save your breath on those people who are only going to despise you if you try and tell them what they need to do. And always be willing to learn. I think I've said this before. Never take the attitude that you can't learn something from another person, regardless of their station or condition in life. There's always something you can learn from them. So if you take that attitude into life, you'll be willing to listen, and you can understand and pick up things that you might otherwise have missed if you go through life with an arrogant attitude. Correct the wise, they will love you. Instruct the wise, they will be even wiser. Teach the righteous, and they will learn even more. Fear or respect for the Lord, the Creator, is the foundation of wisdom. Having a connection to reality, because God is real, having a connection to reality is how you get wisdom. Knowledge of the Holy One results in good judgment. Wisdom will multiply your days and add years to your life. If you become wise, you will be the one to benefit. If you scorn wisdom, you will be the one to suffer. Now it's going to personify a different concept. It's personified wisdom. She's built a house. She's hewn out her 7 pillars. She's prepared a banquet, and she calls on you to come and get benefit from what she has to offer. Now we're going to personify something else. The woman named Folly is brash. She is ignorant and doesn't know it. I think maybe that ought to be a definition of ignorance. If you don't know something, but you know don't know it, that's not ignorance. Because if you don't know it, then you'll try to find it out. Ignorance is when you don't know something and you're not smart enough to realize that you don't know it. The woman named Folly is brash. She's ignorant and doesn't know it. So you can't fix that because they don't feel a need. They don't feel a lack. So they won't seek to correct their lack of knowledge because they think they have it. She sits in her doorway on the heights overlooking the city. She calls out to men going by who are minding their own business. Come in with me, she urges the simple. To those who lack good judgment, she says, stolen water is refreshing. Food eaten in secret tastes the best. But little do they know that the dead are there. Her guests are in the depths of Sheol, the grave, or hell. And again, I'll bet you that the King James does in fact render that, yes it does. But he knoweth not that the dead are there, and that her guests are in the depths of hell. And that concludes chapter 9, and that concludes the introductory chapters of the book. Now there's a break and a transition in the book, because as we get to chapter 10, we start reading the individual proverbs or sayings of Solomon. The Proverbs of Solomon. A wise child brings joy to a father. A foolish child brings grief to a mother. Now, I think I said last week when we first started this book that I believe that a lot of what we find here are statements that Solomon made in explaining the rationale between a decision he made in a case, either civil or criminal, that was brought before him. And that we might try to imagine what kind of a case might he have heard that had been brought to him that would lead him to this saying. A wise child brings joy to a father. A foolish child brings grief to a mother. Was there perhaps a disagreement between parents and their child or children? And the thing came to Solomon, and he looked at it, and he found on behalf of the parents, but then he made this statement that foolish children bring grief to their parents. Tainted wealth has no lasting value, but right living can save your life. Maybe that was a fraud or theft case. The Lord will not let the godly go hungry, but he refuses to satisfy the craving of the wicked. Now, this is old covenant thinking. But it is possible that some person came to him with a case and he judged that person to be a wicked person and he granted judgment in favor of his opponent or her opponent, and he ended up with very little to go on, in poverty. Yahweh does not let the godly go hungry, but the craving of the wicked, which is usually beyond just what is needed, does not get satisfied. Lazy people are soon poor. Hard workers get rich. Unfortunately, in our culture and society, the harder the work, the lower the pay. That doesn't make sense, but it's the way things are. You sit at a desk all day, you get lots of money. You go out and you dig ditches all day, and they pay you barely enough to eat and have a few sheets of tin over your head.
Well, now you remind me of the other meme that I saw from Medical Humor. A crow was sitting on top of a tree doing nothing. A rabbit saw this and decided that he would sit on the ground and do nothing. The fox saw the rabbit and ate him. So the moral of the story, to be able to sit and do nothing, is only accomplished by those who are on top.
Well, okay, yeah. I'm not sure that's a very valuable saying, but I can see what they're saying with it.
Well, remember, I don't tell things well.
Yeah. Verse 5, a wise youth harvests in the...
And now I forgot what you were saying.
Yeah, I started to read a verse and you tried to talk while I was reading a verse.
I'm good at that.
Yeah. And that's because of the time delay between here and there.
Yeah, I'm falling out of the chair.
You want me to come help you push in?
It's getting rather painful.
Okay, let me do that real quick. I'll be right back.
Right there if you want to speak.
Yeah, well.
Oh, it feels painful. Pillows.
I'm looking at the clock and I'm thinking, we are not going to finish this chapter.
Even if I shut up?
Even if you shut up, yeah. A wise youth harvests in the summer, but one who sleeps during harvest is a disgrace. Did a worker get sued for not showing up when he was needed? I mean, harvest is not something you get to put off for long. You know, grain, once it's ripe, if rain comes after it's ripe, it's likely to knock the stalks down, make it very hard to harvest. So you need to get out there and deal with it as soon as it's ready. The godly are showered with blessings. The words of the wicked conceal violent intentions. That makes me sound like a case where, well, I told him such and such, but the judge determined that the words were actually done with evil, said with evil intent to mislead somebody. And there were violent intentions behind those words. Verse 7, we have happy memories of the godly, but the name of a wicked person rots away. And some of these may just be, musings on the difference between the people that Solomon judged to be right in the case and those he judged to be wrong. The wise are glad to be instructed, but babbling fools fall flat on their faces. Well, if you pay much attention to courts, you will find people who seem to think that many words will help them control the situation and get what they want. I watched one this week out of Eau Claire, Wisconsin. The guy was at a festival, so there were a lot of people there, and that's why it became an issue. This guy went into the restroom there and was snorting his drugs, and so the festival organizers called the police to get him out. And the police came. Well, whatever he was doing was clearly a stimulant, because he was talking so fast you couldn't understand him. And he just kept saying the same thing over and over and over and over. I don't know how many times he said it, 50 to 100 times maybe. What's the citation on me? What's the citation on me? Well, the citation on you is you can't keep your mouth shut. Anyway. Oh, that wasn't what they said. That's what I said. Babbling fools fall flat on their faces. People with integrity walk safely, but those who follow crooked paths will be exposed. Verse 10. Where'd my cursor go? There it is. People who wink at wrong cause trouble, but a bold reproof promotes peace. Footnote B on peace there. Hebrew reads, but babbling fools fall flat on their faces. Oh, okay. That just repeats the line from before. Let me see how that's done here. 9 and 10. Eight and 9. Okay, NIV it says in verse 8, a chattering fool comes to ruin. And then in verse 9, the second line is, he who takes crooked paths will be found out. What does the King James do there? 8, the wise in heart will receive commandments, but a prating fool shall fall. He that walketh uprightly walketh surely, but he that perverteth his ways shall be known. And then verse 10, he that winketh with the eye causeth sorrow, but a prating fool shall fall. Okay, it was verse 10 we were comparing there. And in the NIV, verse 10 reads, he who winks maliciously causes grief, and a chattering fool comes to ruin. So that B, that alternate reading, comes from the Greek version rather than the Hebrew. And so maybe the Greek translators were concerned that the Greek intellectuals might find that repetition from verse 8 to verse 10 weak, and so they decided to change it. Whatever. At any rate, I made the decision, since 10 is a round number, that we would stop at 10 so that we have an idea and can remember where to start next week. We're a little bit over on our time. We thank you for joining us. We invite you to come back next week. We'll pick up, hopefully I'll remember to pick up at verse 11 of Proverbs chapter 10, and we'll move forward from there. So until next week, we say goodbye and God bless.
Bye, everyone.